everybody, welcome back to day 16 of the Fill My Cup Challenge. I am Lelo, and today I want to have a brief conversation about something that I learned through the encounter that Elijah has with King Ahab. Okay, so in 1 Kings 18, verse 1, it says, "After a long time, in the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land." Okay? And then just jump forward to verse 42. It says, "So Ahab went off to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Mount Carmel, bent down to the ground, and put his face between his knees." Right? And you can read the whole chapter, but basically, God has made a promise to Elijah. He said to Elijah, "Elijah, go and present yourself to King Ahab. You've been in hiding for too long. It is now time to present yourself." Okay? And Elijah does this. All right? And after Elijah has done this, you know the story. He has this encounter with the 450 prophets of Baal. He executes them. And afterwards, he says to Elijah, "You can go and eat and drink, because I hear the sound of heavy rain." And then he goes up on the mountain, he bows down, he prays. And something that I recognized in the scripture, is that Elijah is praying for the fulfillment of a promise of God. Okay, so God has made a promise to send rain after Elijah has obeyed. And Elijah obeys, and now he goes and he prays to say, "God, I have obeyed, now send the rain," kind of thing. And it's quite interesting because sometimes, when we've got a promise from God, we can start feeling like we don't have to pray about it. During my study and just reflecting on the scripture, I realized that promises of God were an invitation for prayer. Okay, so take a promise of God as God exposing you to the possibility of what he can do, right? So promises of God give us direction in terms of what to ask for, right? So promises are not an invitation to resist prayer because you know that God has already promised it to you. The promises of God are an invitation to pray. And what I love about what we see through Elijah is that he demonstrates what Hebrews 10, I think it's let me just double check, verse 36, it says, "You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised." So sometimes we have to get to the end of our obedience and then petition God to say, "God, I've done what you've asked me to do. Please do what you said you're going to do." And so my encouragement to you today is for you to look at what has God promised you, right? What has God promised you? Don't let the promise make you feel like you shouldn't be praying. Promises are an invitation for us to know how much God can do. Okay, God is exposing you to the range of what he's willing to do for you. And so when we ask, let us ask for the things that God has promised us. Okay, let us not be ashamed to go back and say, "God, you promised this, and today I'm here to remind you, you said you're going to do this." So that's my encouragement to you today, to really just pursue God's promise for your life and to pray about it. The scripture is true, right? It says that after you have done the will of God, you will inherit the promise of God. So I suppose something that I'd like you to also realize is that there are promises attached to your obedience, right? There's certain things that God is willing to do as a result of your obedience, right? There are some things that God will do in response to how much you obey, because obedience is an expression of faith. It's you revealing to God that I trust you, and so I will obey. And so there are promises connected to our obedience. And so be encouraged today, right? Be encouraged, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.